Have you ever wondered what it would be like to step onto an island where the very ground beneath your feet is said to be made of ash and bone? An island so cursed, so haunted, that even the bravest souls dare not stay for long. This is the story of Poveglia Island, a place shrouded in darkness, where the echoes of the past still whisper through the crumbling ruins. It's a tale of plague, madness, and death. A story that will send chills down your spine and make you question what lies beyond the veil of our world. So, sit back, but don't get too comfortable, because what you're about to hear is not for the faint of heart. The story of Poveglia begins centuries ago, during one of the darkest periods in human history, the Black Death. This devastating plague swept across Europe in the 14th century, wiping out nearly half of the population. In Venice, Italy, the situation was dire. The city, already crowded and unsanitary, became a breeding ground for the disease. The Venetian authorities, desperate to contain the outbreak, turned to a small, uninhabited island in the Venetian Lagoon, Poveglia. It was here that they decided to send the sick and dying, a place where they could be isolated from the rest of the population. But Poveglia was not a place of healing. It was a place of despair. Victims of the plague were brought to the island by the boatload, often against their will. They were left in makeshift quarantine zones, where they would either recover or, more likely, die. The dead were burned in massive pyres, their ashes mixed with the soil. Over time, it's said that the very ground of Poveglia became a mixture of earth and human remains. Some even claim that the soil is 50% ash and bone, a grim reminder of the thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands, of souls who perished there. The air was thick with the stench of death, and the cries of the dying could be heard for miles. It was a place of unimaginable suffering, and those who entered rarely left alive. But the horrors of Poveglia did not end with the plague. Centuries later, in the early 20th century, the island took on a new role, one that would add another layer of darkness to its already grim history. In 1922, a mental hospital was built on Poveglia. At first, it seemed like a place of healing, a refuge for those suffering from mental illness. But it didn't take long for the asylum to become a house of horrors. The patients, many of whom were already vulnerable, were subjected to inhumane treatments and cruel experiments. The doctors, far from being healers, became tormentors. One doctor, in particular, stands out in the island's dark history. He was a man consumed by his own ambition, willing to do whatever it took to further his research. He conducted brutal experiments on his patients, many of whom died as a result. The screams of the tortured echoed through the halls of the asylum, blending with the whispers of the plague victims who had died centuries before. But the doctor's reign of terror came to a sudden and violent end. According to legend, he went mad himself, driven to the brink by the horrors he had inflicted on others. In a fit of madness, he climbed to the top of the asylum's bell tower and threw himself off, falling to his death. Some say his spirit still haunts the tower, reliving his final moments over and over again. The asylum was eventually closed in 1968, and the island was abandoned once more. The buildings, left to decay, became overgrown with vegetation, their crumbling walls a testament to the suffering that had taken place within. But even in its abandonment, Poveglia was not at peace. The island, it seemed, was cursed. Fishermen avoided the waters around it, claiming that the area was bad luck. Those who dared to venture onto the island often returned with terrifying stories. They spoke of hearing screams and moans, of seeing shadowy figures wandering the ruins. Some claimed to feel invisible hands touching them, or to experience sudden drops in temperature. Equipment brought by paranormal investigators would malfunction, and eerie voices could be heard on recordings. One of the most chilling aspects of Poveglia is the bell tower. The bell, which once called patients to meals or signaled the start of the day, was removed decades ago. But visitors to the island have reported hearing the bell ring, a ghostly echo of the past. Some say it's the spirit of the mad doctor, still trying to assert his control over the island. Others believe it's the voices of the dead, crying out for release. Whatever the source, the sound is enough to send shivers down the spine of even the most hardened skeptic. But why is Poveglia so haunted? Is it the sheer amount of death and suffering that occurred there? Or is there something more sinister at play? Some believe that the island is cursed, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is unnaturally thin. Others think that the residual energy of the plague victims and the asylum patients has created a kind of psychic imprint, replaying the horrors of the past over and over again. Whatever the reason, one thing is clear: Poveglia is a place of darkness, a place where the past is never truly gone. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to ask you to like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support helps us bring more chilling stories like this to light. And if you have any stories of your own, whether they're personal experiences or local legends, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Now, back to the story. Despite its dark reputation, Poveglia has attracted its share of thrill-seekers and paranormal investigators over the years. Some have come in search of answers, hoping to uncover the truth behind the island's haunted history. Others are drawn by the allure of the unknown, the chance to experience something truly otherworldly. But for many, the experience is more than they bargained for. One group of investigators, for example, reported hearing footsteps following them as they explored the asylum. They would turn around only to find no one there. Another team claimed to have captured the voice of a woman on their EVP recorder, whispering, "Get out." Perhaps the most chilling account comes from a man who snuck onto the island in the dead of night. He had heard the stories, of course, but he didn't believe in ghosts. He thought it would be an adventure, a chance to prove that the legends were just that, legends. But as he walked through the ruins, he began to feel a sense of unease. The air was heavy, oppressive, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Then, as he approached the bell tower, he heard it, the sound of the bell, ringing out into the night. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. The sound was coming from above him, from the tower. But how could that be? The bell had been removed years ago. He turned to leave, but as he did, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He spun around, but there was no one there. Terrified, he ran back to his boat and never returned. Stories like these have only added to Poveglia's mystique, cementing its reputation as one of the most haunted places on Earth. But the island's dark history has also made it a place of fascination for historians and archaeologists. In recent years, there have been efforts to study the island, to uncover the truth behind the legends. But even these efforts have been met with resistance. The Italian government has strictly prohibited public access to the island, citing safety concerns. The buildings are crumbling, and the risk of collapse is high. But some believe there's more to it than that. They think the government is afraid of what might be uncovered, afraid of the darkness that lies beneath the surface. In 2014, the Italian government put Poveglia up for lease, hoping to find someone willing to take on the challenge of restoring the island. But despite its prime location in the Venetian Lagoon, no one was willing to take on the project. The island's dark reputation was too much to overcome. And so, Poveglia remains abandoned, a place where the past is never truly gone, where the dead still walk among the ruins. So, what is it about Poveglia that makes it so haunted? Is it the thousands of plague victims who died there, their ashes mixed with the soil? Is it the tortured souls of the asylum patients, their cries still echoing through the halls? Or is it something else, something darker, something we can't even begin to understand? Whatever the reason, one thing is certain: Poveglia is a place of darkness, a place where the line between the living and the dead is blurred. It's a place where the past is always present, where the dead never rest. And so, the island remains, a silent sentinel in the Venetian Lagoon, a reminder of the horrors that humans are capable of inflicting on one another. It's a place where the veil between worlds is thin, where the dead still walk among the living. It's a place of darkness, of despair, of death. It's Poveglia Island, and its story is one that will haunt you long after you've heard it. So, what do you think? Would you dare to set foot on Poveglia Island? Or is it a place best left to the dead? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video for more chilling tales from the darkest corners of the world.